When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish,
the podcast that even Troye Sivan would call a little too gay.
It's a real pot kettle moment, isn't it?
Yeah, hobby.
I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
And we're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today, I wonder, what are we going to do?
I'm curious what we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about bi-curiosity.
We're going to talk about being bi-curious.
Yeah. Is it bi-curious? Bi-curiosity? What are we going to go with for the title, Kyle?
Probably bi-curious. That's what I see everyone refer to it as.
I love it when we plan the show. I love it when we plan the show on the show.
Yeah, let's plan out our next few episodes together right now.
But first, I do have a piece of feedback to share with you. It is from alert listener Mike Johnson.
Hey, wait,
Kyle, I am more on the lesbian U-Haul side of the spectrum that you talked about. And yes, it's totally fine to say that. I would absolutely say that. And you know me well enough to know that I would be okay with you saying it too. Oh,
okay. This really was from you, Mike Johnson. Because we have a listener named Mike Johnson, and you threw me off. Yeah, okay. You definitely are on the lesbian side. You listened to the episode that you weren't on.
Yeah. Well, I told Derek I did a little bit fall asleep to it on the plane because I'm not feeling well.
Hey, if you press that play button, I don't care what you do after that. You can fall asleep. You can leave your phone behind and go do other things. You can have sex to us, whatever you want.
Right. Yes. Agreed. 100%.
Do you think anyone has had sex to our podcast?
I hope so. I hope they're doing it right now.
I hope if you're in the middle of sex right now, do that one thing with your tongue.
Film it or record it. Send us it. No, please don't do that.
News channel on
our Discord has a send nudes channel.
Yeah, post it there.
Yeah, post it there. Good plan.
How are you feeling, Mike?
Oh my God. Okay, I'm sick, which sucks. I'm also in New York City right now. I'm on the 40th floor of this hotel. Times Square is down below me, but I think it's far enough away, this high in the air, that I can't hear it.
Okay,
which is ideal. I woke up in Scotland, which is not like waking up in Vegas if you're Katy Perry. But my long slog continues. I'm still have 10 days before I get to go home. But hey, here we are. I'm phoning it in, Kyle, just for you.
Oh, gayish. Happy Pride, Mike.
Happy Pride. How are you? How was it having that Derek guy on the show?
He was fine. No, Derek was great. Derek was lovely. It's nice to have a real, interesting, attentive, attractive co-host.
Yeah. What's that like?
No, I had to do the news, which was annoying. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that this week.
Great. Well, speaking of the news, here's the news.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News.
My God, Kyle, we nailed that segue.
Good segue. That was great. High fives all around.
Really stuck the landing.
Yeah.
All right. News the first. So Sarah McBride, who is running for Congress in Delaware for their single sole solitary seat in the U.S. House of Representatives, her opponent in the Democratic primary has dropped out. So she's now almost assured of being the first trans person in Congress.
Wow.
Like, the Republicans basically have no fucking chance in Delaware. Nobody has even signed up to run, although they might be able to put in the paperwork to run the September primary and there would be a Republican on the ballot, but it is likely that she's going to run unopposed. Now, here's the thing. It's like a Pyrrhic victory. Is that what they call it? Like, it's great. She'll be the first trans member of Congress. That's awesome. But to waltz in there because like nobody else showed up feels like not the kind of victory we're hoping for, but still momentous.
You know what? I say take whatever victories come your way, because we've had so many like defeats and attacks and challenges to the trans community. Take those victories. Let's just write it down as a win.
Well, I would vote for her even if I had another option, and I lived there, which I don't. Anyway,
there are a couple obstacles in the way, but yeah.
She was a former HRC National Press Secretary. She was the first out trans person to address a major party's national convention, which was, of course, the Democrats in 2016. If it had been the Republicans, that would have been, I think, pretty interesting. But she was the first trans person to be a state senator in 2020. First one reelected as a state senator in 2022. I guess she was appointed. She interned at the White House when Barack Obama was president. Anyway, she will be the youngest person to represent Delaware in Congress since Joe Biden.
Wow. Joe Biden. Known young person, Joe Biden.
Right. He was 30 when he began his tenure as a U.S. senator in the state of Delaware in 1914.
What I'm
I cracked myself up, Kyle.
You did.
It was 1973. It was not 1914. He's not that old. Okay. You were going to say something.
I was going to say something serious. What I don't want is that just because we have a trans person in office that all of a sudden she's expected to do all the heavy lifting. Like other people, like both LGBT people and allies, need to keep fighting against bans on trans healthcare and the trans bills and everything. It can't be like, oh, cool, trans person, now you go defend everything. That's not how this should work.
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree. And we could take a paraphrase of what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said when she was asked how many women on the court would be enough women. And she said, when there's 9.
Yeah.
We need 538 trans people to run Congress someday.
If we only had trans people in Congress, like, I feel like the country would be in a better place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. News the second. Like I said, I'm here in New York City, so I'm going to do a sort of local story.
Oh.
Flags dedicated to celebrating LGBTQ Pride Month were vandalized this week in New York City, according to the police department. There are a bunch of colorful flags near the Stonewall National Monument, where the Stonewall Bar is, located in Manhattan's Greenwich Village neighborhood, dedicated to a turning point in the modern LGBTQ civil rights movement. And a bunch of flags were removed and or damaged on Thursday night.
That by Stonewall, come on now. Don't do that. Just don't.
Yeah. Well, and it was around 8 p.m., which the sun is still up. So I don't know why we don't have pictures of whoever this was. They removed or destroyed 160 flags, which I don't know.
That would be impressive if it wasn't so evil.
Right. Like, I don't know, maybe like some kind of a backpack or a barrel or a bucket to put them in. I don't know how you steal that many flags, but yeah. Anyway, even places like New York aren't safe. New York City Mayor Eric Adams commented on the vandalism in a post on X, formerly Twitter, saying, quote, "Hate has no place in our city and nothing will change that." And the mayor wrote on X, "We love the LGBTQ plus community and celebrate them during Pride and all year round. We'll always have your back, and we will bring whoever defaced the Stonewall Monument to justice."
Yeah, fuck you, asshole.
Yeah. Dickbag, fuckface, asshole. Okay, I'm going to say for this year's award, we can totally not necessarily know the name of the person to put them on the ballot. So I'm nominating Stonewall flag person. I mean, let's face it, it's a dude. Stonewall flag guy.
Yeah. Stonewall flag guy gets a nomination. Okay.
He's now officially nominated for...
It'll be like Deep Throat. It'll be like 30 years later and we find out the identity and then they'll get an award.
Yeah. Sorry. You said Deep Throat. Okay.
Hot. Happy Pride.
News the last?
Yeah.
This one is bittersweet, but Lynn Conway, who is a distinguished computer scientist, has died at age 86, which is a good run. But she has a bunch of really, really cool accomplishments in her life, but is perhaps most famous for being fired by IBM in 1968 because she had gender confirmation surgery.
Damn. That's before Stonewall.
Yep. She died Sunday at her home in Jackson, Michigan, of a heart condition. Yeah. So she grew up in New York. She got bachelor's and master's degrees from Columbia in the early 60s. She spent time, quote, living on the fringes of the gay community in San Francisco. But she identified not as a gay man, but as a woman. After she graduated from Columbia, she went to work on a secret project for IBM. And in 1968, she underwent gender confirmation surgery in the office of Dr. Harry Benjamin, who was a pioneer in gender confirmation surgery. And at first, the company was supportive, apparently, but eventually they decided they could not have a trans employee, and she was fired. And then IBM issued an apology in 2020.
Okay. Well, at least it was in her lifetime. So, sometimes you don't get to see the whoops-a-daisies.
Yeah. Yeah. At least she heard it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously way too late, but.
Yeah, I'm sure she totally forgave them and everything was fine.
Yep.
No, actually, it's funny. I do have a quote about that. She said that she understood. Let's see. She gave an interview about the whole thing, and the author said that she was, quote, philosophical and non-judgmental about IBM's action. She said, Christine Jorgensen was the last time anything had come out about stuff like this, referring to a trans trailblazer from the 50s. And IBM president T.J. Watson Jr., quote, was thinking there would be endless publicity, and I can understand that.
Wow.
She also apparently threw out all of that. Her ex-wife, they ended up getting a divorce, and then she denied her access to her daughters for 14 years.
No.
So she lost her job, she lost her family, she lost all kinds of stuff, all to live her truth, which is pretty badass. Anyway, R.I.P. Lynn Conway.
Yeah.
That's the news.
That's the news.
I ended with the sad one, Kyle.
I know, but a commemoration of a life well lived. Speaking of people's lives who we want to commemorate, I want to thank the following new Patreon members. Thank you to Alternative Prune.
Okay, is that just
I don't know.
A big raisin?
What is a raisin but an alternative prune? Thank you to Wardson Lambert and Wardson. Is that a name? I don't know.
No.
And thank you to Drunk in a Beer Suit.
Drunk in a beer suit.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems a little on the nose, but okay.
If you want ad-free episodes a day early, if you want bonus content, if you want to use Mike's Hole, if you want a shirt, if you want a discount on merch, bunch of other stuff, go to patreon.com/Gayish podcast.
Somebody asked on Discord today if use Mike's Hole is the same thing as 100 words, and yes, it is.
yes, there is not. That is the same thing. Using Mike's Hole does not get you secret access to Mike's actual hole. Using his hole
As
means stuffing his mouth. That's, you know what? There's a secret tier that you can only unlock if you use the special passphrase. But you can stuff 100 words into Mike's Hole if you are at the $15 tier.
Okay, now that makes it sound like they're going to put pieces of paper up my ass.
Yeah, stuff paper up his ass. See what comes out.
Oh, God. Do you want to talk about bi-curiosity?
Yeah, let's talk about bi-curious.
All right. I was gone for a week. Did you miss me?
Yeah, Mike. It's so great to have you back.
Okay, great.
That sounded fake.
It's fine.
I need to sound more genuine. That I actually had a lot of anxiety doing the episode without you.
Did you really?
You're like my security blanket.
Oh, that's awesome.
I guess so.
You're welcome. I don't
Yeah, I don't know. But of course, having Derek, having the bad queers was wonderful. All of them were lovely to have on the episode. So they all made it very easy to fill in your gap, fill in your gaps, fill in your hole while you were gone. And and I'm glad to have you back. What were you up to, Mike?
Oh, last weekend?
Mm-hmm.
I was in Ireland for work, and boyfriend came to Ireland to meet me. So we were in Ireland together.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I took a vacation. Thanks for filling in so we could do that. I guess that's not really filling in. It is filling in. It's filling in the mic-sized hole.
Yeah.
And
which is a huge hole from what I hear.
I'm back filling my own hole.
Okay, bi-curious. Let's get to it.
Yeah,
this is what the people want to hear.
I'm going to talk to you about the history of bi-curiosity, but not really.
Sure.
I want to talk about the words because some of it is interesting, I think. But that's
some of it. Some of our podcast tends to be interesting.
First, let's talk about the word curious, Kyle.
Okay, sure. Why not?
I love etymology. So, curious in the sense of bi-curiosity, which is just a curiosity about bisexuality and an identity of we'll go into that later. But the word curiosity started by meaning subtle or sophisticated.
Ooh.
And then became eager to know, inquisitive, desirous of seeing, often in a bad sense, like you were pervy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, bi people. It's not going great for you so far.
The objective sense of exciting curiosity is by 1715 in English. In booksellers' catalogs, the word was a euphemism for erotic or pornographic.
Mm-hmm.
So porn was called curiosa for a while, which is the Latin neuter plural of curiosus. And then do you remember in Alice in Wonderland when she says curiouser and curiouser?
No.
Lewis Carroll was like fond of inventing words and invented curiouser as a thing that Alice said about like, it's getting weirder and weirder around here. But that's curious. We all know what curious is. But I know that we've talked about this before, but the word bisexual actually came into English in 1824 and it initially meant hermaphroditic to describe animals. Animals that had the organs.
They had multiple sexes.
They have the organs of both sexes.
Oh.
So they're hermaphroditic. But yeah, so bi and bisexual meaning two, but initially it was sexual as in biological sex, and creatures that had both at the same time. The meaning that we mean today of being attracted to both sexes came in 1914. But it wasn't generally in use until the 50s. Apparently, like research folks, sociologists used ambisexual first to describe basically the same thing as bisexual.
Oh, I like that.
Like ambidextrous, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In fact, Esperenzi, which was translated by Ernest Jones in 1916, said, I suggest that the term ambisexuality be used in psychology instead of the expression bisexual predisposition. This would connote that we understand by this predisposition not the presence of male and female material in the organism, nor of male and female sex hunger in the mind, but the child's psychical capacity for bestowing his eroticism, originally objectless, on either the male or the female sex, or on both. Yeah.
I'm going to call them ambisexuals now. I like that better.
Ambisexuals, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We bisexual people, you are officially erased. We have bi-erased you.
But we're erasing you with a different, better word.
A different, better word. But all of this, you've talked about Kraft Ebbing before on the show, and or maybe in our book. Maybe
I think
both.
in our book, yes, for sure. In the book, I forget if I've talked about him on the show.
But attraction to both sexes. The word bisexual comes to us from German, from this Kraft Ebbing dude, and existed before it came to English. So that was in 1892. So then we look at bi-curious. If you had to guess the first time we think the word bi-curious was used, what might you guess?
1993.
It's a great guess, Kyle.
That's what you say before you tell me it's wrong.
It's wrong, but it's a great guess.
Thank you for that validation. Thanks for that participation trophy.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, I'm here for you. So I looked to see if I could find the exact article, but multiple places report that the first time the word bi-curious is used in print was from a San Francisco Sentinel article in 1984. I
was less than 10 years off, to my credit. I think that's pretty solid in the history of mankind.
Or of the universe, like out of
the universe.
Out of how many billions of years? Yeah,
I was like a piece of sand away from the actual answer.
Yeah, you were. I agree.
Thank you.
But a quick shout out to the San Francisco Sentinel, which has been around for a really long time. It serves the LGBT community. It is in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it covers local San Francisco politics, news, social events, and then international news of interest to the gay community. It is still being produced online, but it started in 1974 and published by Charles Lee Morris, who's an activist for gay rights and a local political leader. And I just think it's pretty cool that there are a few things that the Sentinel sort of gets credit for in gay culture, and it's likely that bi-curious is at least initially something that appeared in that publication.
Huh.
That's really all I wanted to say, I guess. Like the idea of bi-curiosity or being bi-curious as a thing that people said about themselves really takes hold in the 90s. The Oxford English Dictionary, in fact, says 1990s is when bi-curious is from. But yeah.
Something I want to be cautious about when we talk about the definition of bisexual just in general is it maybe originally started as like being attracted to like both sexes, but there's some like, I feel like the updated, more modern definition I've seen has been because we know now that there are more than two genders, that like most people that I've seen that describe themselves as bisexual have defined it as being attracted to their own gender and a different gender. Like those are the two things that bi refers to. And that helps make it so the definition doesn't limit us to just two genders.
Okay. I'm down with that. And pansexual is just like, it don't matter.
Omnisexual, pan and pansexual, I always fuck up the difference between these two, but pansexual might be the gender doesn't matter. They're attracted to the person.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to tell you some definitions from Urban Dictionary.
Okay. This could go any number of ways, Kyle. And
it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Just to warn you, it's not too great. But what the reason I wanted to do this is usually I haven't done this before. Like basically bi-curious had a bunch of different, every word has just a bunch of different definitions, and then people upvote the ones that they think are the most relevant, and that's what shows up on top. And I thought that actually by reading through all the different definitions, it helped understand what the assumptions and stereotypes are of bi-curious people. Based on a user submitted definition, it helped us understand what people assume about being bi-curious.
This is the most legitimizing thing that's ever happened to Urban Dictionary, Kyle.
Agree.
You're extracting value that isn't probably actually there, but you are.
I felt like a social anthropologist by a digital social anthropologist by doing this, and felt really good about my work to uncover stereotypes. Because like, what do you think the stereotypes of bi-curiosity are? Do any like jump to mind right away?
That it's a lie. Like bi is a lie, but bi-curious is even more of a lie.
Even more of a liar.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the like maybe potentially offensive thing, but I want to work on it, but like I don't know how you can be curious. Like, girl, you bi, and like
I think we're going to talk more about that later when we talk about is this by erasure, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's a great one. It might just be a lie. Are there any other stereotypes that jump to mind?
Wishy-washy.
That's also one of bisexuals in general. So I wonder if bi-curiosity can just amplify the existing stereotypes of bisexual people.
Yeah, I think so. I there's also like a it's maybe forgivable. I'm trying to like, I feel like a straight dude could say that he's bi-curious and still maintain his straight cred.
So maybe a little bit more socially acceptable.
But then also I think that might be just him trying to get in the pants of some progressive lady who would be into that. This is a complex narrative I've just constructed, maybe, but like, I feel like a straight guy could say that he's bi-curious. He's a little bi-curious and like get noticed for his progressivity and like hop in the sack with somebody because he said that.
Yeah.
But have it not actually be true.
I feel like there was an episode of Sex and the City where someone like used the line that they're gay and they're not sure if they're attracted to, like, they think they might be gay, but they might be attracted to women, and that's the line they use to hook up with women. I can see what you're saying.
Great. I'm glad someone can.
Also, Mike is sick, so he gets a pass for everything he says this episode.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So some of the definitions, quote, most of the people who classify as bi-curious are or want to experiment to discover what they like. So there is an assumption of the desire to experiment that comes along with bi-curiosity.
Yeah. Okay.
Another definition, the individual has either no or limited homosexual experience in the case of heterosexual individuals, or no or limited heterosexual experience in the case of homosexual people. So the idea that you have kind of limited experience, which I think ties into the desire to experiment as part of the assumption of what it means to be bi-curious.
There is definitely this like sort of innocent, like, I don't know, tenuous, baby doe-eyed, innocent lamb. I keep saying innocent, like, it's kind of an adorable ignorance, an adorable self-ignorance, which I think is, that's our whole show, maybe.
Yeah. No, I agree that there is something. One of the assumptions that might be that someone is a little bit more innocent or youthful, if they are bi-curious.
Yeah.
One of the definitions was someone who knows they like the same sex but doesn't want to come out of the closet, so they call themselves curious.
Yeah.
Which that was, I think, ties into what you were saying, is like, it's just a lie. It's just like you're gay, but you're not willing to admit it. I think that's one of the assumptions that comes along with this.
Yep, absolutely.
Another definition, quote, bi-curiosity can also be a precursor to other sexual activities such as poly relationships, group sex, threesomes. And in parentheses, it says, like they say, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought her back.
Is that a saying?
I've never heard that before in my life, but Derek is shaking his head. He apparently has, so it's a thing. But I did not, in thinking about the assumptions that you would make about someone who's bi-curious, I did not think about this idea that someone would assume it's a precursor to threesomes or poly relationships. But maybe that's some people's assumptions about it.
I mean, I think, I don't know, if you're curious and you're with somebody, maybe we could figure it out together. 3-way.
That's true. If you're in a relationship and you're like, oh no, that must be like, if you're in a monogamous relationship and you're like, realize you're bi-curious, that must be like a little difficult to navigate because you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
What do I do now? It's like, yeah, I guess I can see that. Another definition, quote, females seem to be more apt to admit bi-curiosity than males.
That's this whole narrative of like, that ladies are more fluid, or at the very least it's more acceptable for them to admit that they are. And there's also the whole lug thing, which I mentioned lug to lesbian until graduation. I mentioned to one of my Irish coworkers in Dublin last week, and he was blown away and loved it and like laughed hysterically and was like, I'm going to start using that.
What episode did we talk about that? Did we talk about that recently?
I don't know. Sometimes we talk to lesbians, Kyle.
Sometimes. No, but the reason I asked that is because what the data showed, we were looking at how many straight guys had hooked up with men and how many straight women had hooked up with women, and there were more straight women that had hooked up with women than straight guys had hooked up with guys. So there is something to the idea that women might experiment more. And it's also like one of those cultural assumptions that, and it's more socially acceptable, everything that you said about women.
Yeah. Huh. It's almost like we learned something by doing this show. And now
we did, unfortunately, in spite of all of our efforts.
Well, yeah, I can't figure it out. Looking at the list, I don't know, Kyle.
You don't know what episode that was?
No.
Why did we do that? Anyway, doesn't matter. Another definition, when a girl or boy who thinks the same sex is attractive but would never date or sexually please the same sex, they preferably stay within traditional relationships and date, marry, fuck the opposite sex.
Okay.
So it's like you're attracted to the same gender, but want to stay within the socially acceptable gender roles of dating and marrying the opposite sex. So
was it Gold Star Gaze, Kyle?
It was Gold Star Gaze. Yep, that was it.
Okay, great. I'm glad we got there, because I was going.
That wasn't the point of the gayta that I brought. That was a byproduct that we accidentally learned information from from doing gayta on Gold Star Gaze. But yeah, one of the assumptions of bi-curiosity might be that someone wants to stick with the same gender to like it makes it a little bit easier. Within like social roles and dynamics to date and marry the same gender, date and marry the opposite gender. So I could see that being an assumption that you might bring to bi-curiosity.
Yeah. Well, and there is, and we're gonna talk about bi-curiosity as bi-erasure next or whatever. But there is a certain amount of like. If the presumption is that you need to act on it in order to be bisexual, then is it just curiosity? Like, if I'm in a heterosexual relationship and I know that I'm attracted to the same gender folks, but I just never act on it. I'm just interested in it and curious about it. Am I actually just bi? Like, okay, I guess we're doing that now. We're doing it now, Kyle. In this,
let's do it now. Sure.
Was there more Urban Dictionary?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do that first.
Okay. Another one was usually female breeders that are up for a little bit of elbow rubbing at the request of their boyfriends.
Oh.
That was one of the definitions in Urban Dictionary of bi-curious.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's not great. That feels
that's
weird
not
as a
great.
presumption.
That also, it doesn't sound like curiosity at all. It sounds like coercion. That's not, and those are not the same word or concept, Kyle.
Agreed. And the last one is a euphemism often used by promiscuous females to help label themselves.
Okay.
Which,
what?
like, the idea of promiscuity is something that also gets applied to bisexuals of like, oh, you just want to be slutty and date everyone, which is not true. But so I could see, and again, like there's several of these definitions really focused on females as being the ones that might be more likely to identify as bi-curious and as a way to experiment. So these are some of the stereotypes that come along with being bi-curious.
Okay. Can you read that last one again? There's something.
Yeah. Euphemism often used by promiscuous females to label themselves.
Is it a euphemism? I'm so confused by what they're trying to say. Like it's a thing that sluts call themselves is like, is that the definition?
Kind of. Yeah. That's kind of what they're saying. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on. You're an asshole. Just like whoever wrote that is an asshole.
Yes. Definitely assholishness abound in these Urban Dictionary definitions. I think it's important to know, like, there are a lot of assumptions and sometimes shitty assumptions that come along with calling yourself bi-curious. And I don't know what we're going to talk more about it, but you know, whatever, if there's a label in general, my general belief is that if you find a label that you feel comfortable with and you enjoy and you appreciate about yourself, then you're allowed to use it, and good for you. I'm happy you found that label.
Yeah. You can call yourself whatever you want, Kyle.
Yeah. Except Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh no.
Oh, when it comes to sexual orientation, call yourself what you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
And gender identity.
Yeah. I think about people that call themselves transsexual. Like, if that's the word that you feel fits, that's great. Don't use that word and call yourself the word that makes you feel best and feels right.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it now.
All right, let's get into it. So, bi-curious as by erasure.
Yeah.
The whole idea came from this article that I found on Refinery 29, which I don't know what Refinery 29 is, but Erica W. Smith.
It's come up before. I've seen it before.
Yeah, it's like they talk about gay shit sometimes.
Yeah.
But the author, Erica W. Smith, this came out in 2019. I was really interested in this. I'd not really considered it before. She says that Bi Girls Club, that's capital BGC, Bi Girls Club founder Gabrielle Alexa says
this is an actual organization.
Yeah, Bi Girls Club.
Huh.
It's shopbygirlsclub.com is the link. Does that even resolve?
Interesting.
So now am I a bi girl now because I'm shopping here?
The only thing standing in the way between you and being a bi girl is shopping in their shop.
Yeah. Oh, do not go there, anybody.
Whoa, why? Is it porn?
It leads to an article called How to Become a Transgender Webcam Model.
Oh, but what if I want to learn how to be a transgender web model?
Well, because it says, what are the steps involved in becoming a she-male webcam model?
Okay.
That's not great.
Wait, can you give us a hint? What are some of the steps?
Let's see. Basic tips. Choose a safe and reputable webcam platform.
Okay, OnlyFans got it. Build a community. Twitter, yep.
Create a brand.
I'm Kyle the Slut. Great.
Experiment with your content.
Okay, fuck a bunch of different people. Got it.
Be consistent.
Oh, post regular. Yeah. You can't just fuck one person and put it on OnlyFans and then expect to get subs. You got to post regular fuckings.
Be mindful of your safety.
Oh yeah. Fuck with consent.
And seek out support.
Hey, mom and dad, I'm starting a new endeavor and really need your support. Okay. I'll consider that if I ever think about becoming a she-male slut.
All right. Well, I will go on this journey with you, Kyle. I just want you to know.
Oh, you're my last step. You could be my support.
Yeah, I'm your support. I support you.
Thanks, Mike.
Even when you make terrible decisions, I try to support.
Every decision in my life has led me to this moment.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Bi Girls Club founder Gabrielle Alexa, which
right. We're talking about a real thing.
I was blown away by the idea that the term bi-curious implies that someone needs to have a certain amount of sexual experience before they can identify as bisexual. She says, quote, "To me, the term bi-curious reflects a belief that orientation is something you have to explore sexually and romantically before it's real," which I disagree with, Alexa explains. This idea isn't unique to bisexuality. We hear it a lot when preteens and teenagers identify as anything other than straight. The suggestion is often that they're too young and have to explore first. I think for many folks, bi-curious is a label they're led to believe they have to come out as before they've gathered enough evidence, be a sexual or romantic experience, to prove their bisexuality to others. It feels like a product of biphobia because we don't expect heterosexual people to be sexually experienced before we believe they're hetero. In fact, they can save themselves from marriage and still be straight.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's right? Like, I don't necessarily think that you have to go on a date with somebody of the same gender and an opposite gender, or not your gender, to count as queer or bisexual or pansexual or whatever the right label is. You can just know that is true in your heart and mind, and it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the things I think every non-heterosexual orientation runs into this challenge, but particularly bi people, of the expectation that like your experience with all of these genders is required in order for you to define yourself as such. And yeah, it's not true. I knew I was gay when I was so young, and like the amount
it came out of you like that sneeze did.
That looked like it hurt.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Are you okay?
I think I'm having a heart attack. My arm hurts. You knew you were gay when you were little.
Yeah. I was so into Cameron. I didn't have to have any. I wish I had a sexual experience with Cameron, but I didn't, and I just knew.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of non-heterosexual orientations run into this, like, oh, prove to me, like.
Yep.
This requirement of proof, that is the burden of proof that shouldn't actually exist.
But then isn't the implication of that people who refer to themselves as bi-curious are erasing themselves?
That's one of the weird things about this. On the Patreon bonus segment, I'm going to do an Ask Reddit segment, and we're going to talk more about bi people's opinion of the phrase bi-curious. But it's interesting to have something that both feels like erasure and also can be comforting to people.
Yeah.
It's like both of those things can happen at the same time with the same word.
So the same article, another quote, "What's unique about bisexuality is that it's particularly disbelieved and stigmatized. We always have to prove ourselves to others. Lesbo-curious and gay-curious aren't being used, as far as I know, although lesbian and gay folks have their identities invalidated in other ways. The fact that there is specifically a pre-stage to bisexuality, but not really other identities, feels very biphobic."
Yes, I think that's the biggest, like, to really underline that point, like that's the biggest difference in the term bi-curious, is that we have the term questioning. So if you think you might be gay, you might label yourself as questioning, but no one labels themselves as gay curious. Like that's just not a label. That's just not a word we use. And so, yeah, what is it about bisexuals that makes it so, going back to one of the definitions, that they want to, the desire to experiment is one of the assumptions that comes along with bi-curious. It's like, oh, you're too inexperienced to know that you're bisexual, and that's because you don't have the experience yet. Well, you don't need that. You don't need experience in order to know that you're bisexual. You may be questioning, but why do we have to call it bi-curious if you haven't had the experience yet with multiple genders?
Yep. Well, yes to all of that, Kyle. This is scintillating repartee here, but she goes on.
No, I'm just laughing at. Usually, when you say how enjoyable the episode has been so far, that means it's going really well.
It's so great. I love all of this.
I love this. We're doing so good, Mike.
This person goes on to basically say that bi-curious is shit and nobody should use it. And so she says, people who are interested in exploring attraction to more than one gender can feel free to use another term, bisexual. Bisexuality is described as the potential for attraction to your same gender and different genders. This definition would encompass someone who is bi-curious, as it speaks to potential and curiosity. When people tell me they're bi-curious, it's not my job to tell them their label is wrong, but I do want them to know that a different label for their attractions is available.
Yeah. Okay.
She's basically saying bi-curious is bullshit. Stop saying it.
Okay. The fact that this label exists is the biphobic part, not that people use it. That to me is what my takeaway. The fact that this exists as a, but stick with me. The fact that this exists as a term, and gay curious and lesbian curious and pan curious, like all these other terms don't exist. Like the fact that it exists as a term is the bi-erasure and biphobic part. If a term exists and people find comfort in it and use it, they're not, again, people should use and embrace whatever term they feel is right. So it's not, they're not the wrong ones. It's just that we have a society have invented a word to describe inexperienced bi people is the biphobic part.
Yeah. Okay. Now that explains what she says next in this article, which like,
great.
Well, no. I didn't, so what she says is, quote, labels are social constructs and they're about making us feel affirmed in ourselves. So if bi-curious accomplishes that for people, I'm supportive. I don't think we should hold questioning bisexual folks accountable for the harm of bi-curious. They might be stepping into queer spaces for the first time or engaging with queer topics for the first time. It's unreasonable to expect them to know what bisexual or bi-curious mean outside of what they've seen in movies or on TV. I'm sure nobody declares themselves bi-curious with the intent to harm.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
Well, go ahead.
I think that I forgot what I was going to say, so I'm going to drink some more wine and really reflect on it.
How is that wine? It looks red.
It is red. It's Tattoo Girl Cabernet Sauvignon. It's my last weekend before I start work, so I'm really enjoying it.
Great. I hope Tattoo Girl is bi-curious.
She looks bi-curious. I don't know what that means, but she looks it.
Yeah.
What I think a lot of bi people know and are trying to make sure is more widely known is that you don't have to have experience with multiple genders to know that you're bisexual, and your attraction doesn't have to be 50-50 in order to count. Like, I think those are a couple staples of bisexuality that people should know. And the more that people knew that, maybe the less likely they would be to label themselves as bi-curious. If they knew that it didn't have to be half and half, and that they didn't have to have any sexual, they don't have to have the history, they don't have to have the body count to prove their bisexuality. I think if more people knew that, less people would identify as bi-curious.
Yeah, this whole paradigm is really harmful, I think, psychologically. And like, I'm going to make it about me now.
Ooh, do it.
I avoided doing anything gay for the longest time because that made my attractions that I knew were real. In my heart, I knew that I was fucking gay, but not acting on it somehow created this protective barrier that it then wasn't true. And I didn't have to face the truth of it. And I wonder if that's what's happening for somebody for whom bi-curious is a comfortable label, that like they are erasing their own bisexuality, or at least putting like a little protective candy coated shell around it by separating out their feelings that they already know are in there, or they wouldn't be processing them, from the physical act of doing something about it. And I think that's maybe bad. Like I think that's maybe harmful to say that your feelings and curiosity isn't real because you haven't done it yet. I think is harmful potentially.
But I do think like the questioning label in general, take the word bi out of it, and just questioning is a very useful word, because for some people maybe experimenting is helpful to them. Like maybe actually like fucking a dude is going to help them figure out how into it they are, and if they're really into it. Like I think questioning is a great and important label that is useful to include in the LGBTQ. Like Q can be questioning or queer, and is useful. And
that's interesting. So I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing. And I want to ask, if a straight dude, totally not into it, not even interested, bangs another dude just to see if he's into it, that feels self-invalidating somehow, right? Like you don't have to sleep with other dudes to prove your heterosexuality either.
Right. You don't have to like prove the opposite to show how straight you are.
Yeah.
But I think for some people there is this phase where it's like, for me, I was sure. I knew I was gay. I knew I was into dudes. Like that was just how it was, but I don't think it's that cut and dry for some people. So I think this questioning phase is useful, and some of that could include exploration with people, like through physical, through fucking or through whatever. Like I think that can be a useful part of questioning. Not the only part of questioning, but a useful part of questioning. But so I think it's not about whether questioning is valid or useful. It's why is bisexual the only one that has its own term for it?
I'm suddenly thinking about therapy, Kyle, which everyone should be in all the time for every reason. But
betterhelp.com/gayish.
Great. Yeah. Mama needs a new pair of shoes. So much of my personal therapy journey has been about trusting my own feelings, and the idea that like I should be having feelings that I'm not, or that the feelings that I'm having I shouldn't be having. And it kind of feels like that in a way, right? Like maybe your feelings are your feelings, and maybe your attractions are your attractions. Maybe I don't know. Am I making any sense at all?
So questioning people should lean into like if you're feeling attraction, then embrace that, then it's true.
Yeah.
I agree. And that's easier said than done.
Oh, for sure. for sure. Like I'm coming back around to convincing myself that I actually like that label now because it means that you are going through the process of maybe reconciling your feelings and being okay with them. Like, I don't know. Everybody label yourself whatever you want to label yourself. I absolutely believe wholeheartedly in self-determinism that way. And I think that I would offer to a questioning person who wants to use that label for themselves that you already have some answers just by asking the questions.
I don't know. I think there is some room for exploration and insecurity and time and research, and I don't know. I think there is room for the questioning label that's very useful. You labeled yourself as bi.
I did, and I'm going to back up. I'm going to make it about myself again a little bit.
Do it.
My very first gay encounter was back in college, and it was terrible. And I think I sought that experience out to help me question and then get the no answer that I wanted. I can't be gay. I didn't enjoy this gay experience. It's sort of the corollary to the whole bi-curiosity thing. I don't know. But yeah, I did I labeled myself as bi for the first however long. That's how I initially came out to my ex. And she did not take that well.
Did you ever use bi-curious? Was that ever part of it, or was it bisexual that you?
I don't remember ever saying that.
Okay.
Although that was sort of implied. I do think I said I didn't come out to her as bi. I said I think I might be bisexual, which I guess is bi-curious or questioning.
That to me is bi-curious. You're bi-curious. You were bi-curious, Mike.
Except I wasn't. Like I was full on gay and thought about dicks all the time, and was just saying that to her because I thought it would make it more palatable. I don't know. The capacity for self-deception when it comes to gender identity and sexual orientation is not to be underestimated.
Speaking of the capacity for self-deception.
Great.
Can I tell you about some gayta?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh my God. We're nailing these transitions, Mike. Because this study is called Straight with a Pinch of Bi.
Oh, God.
The construction of heterosexuality as an elastic category among adult U.S. men.
Okay.
What?
Just a pinch.
What'd you say? Just a pinch. Just a pinch. Just grab a little pinch of it and toss it in there. This is by Hector Camillo and Amanda Hoffman in 2017, published in the journal Sexualities. And this is, they did an analysis based on an in-depth interviews conducted with 100 men who self-identified as straight, but were recruited while they were perusing sexual encounters with men online.
Uh-oh.
So these men were age range 18 to 70, and a majority of the straight identified men were white. Many were secretive about their same-sex desires and behaviors. And part of the importance of the fact that a lot of them were white is there's this idea of being down low that is prevalent among African-American and Latino communities. And this, what they said was this challenged that idea that that's just common in those communities, like down low. We don't use that phrase, but this concept also exists amongst white people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so among these 100 men who identified as straight but were looking for same-sex encounters, 50 considered themselves straight. The other 50 considered themselves straight and had another descriptor as well to add on to it. So of those 50 that had a separate descriptor to add on to it, 27 said they were bisexual, which straight and bisexual, like that alone is like,
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I don't
Say
know.
whatever you want, you know?
That's one of those things where human sexuality is far more complex than the boxes we allow for. And so there are 27% of these people said I am straight and bisexual.
Yeah, I'm straight, just not on the weekends.
Right. I'm straight, but it's late tonight and I've been having a few glasses of bourbon. So here we are. 9 of them considered themselves bi-curious.
Ooh, okay, boys. What was that about?
That's the name of the episode. All of the other examples I have were one person. This was the additional descriptor that they gave themselves, and I just really enjoyed this list of other things people call themselves. So they consider themselves straight, and one of their said they were 75 to 80% straight. Another person that said they were straight and hetero-curious. Straight and hetero-flexible. Straight leaning towards bi. Straight maybe bi. Straight somewhat bi. And someone called themselves straight curious.
Great. Okay. There is the whole paradigm has this purity culture bullshit built into it that straight is this like binary thing that is either true or not true. And that is to a certain extent how language works. I understand that. Like there is a part of me that wants to laugh and say that saying that you're kind of straight is like saying you're kind of pregnant. Like that doesn't, it's not how it works.
Yeah.
But then also it's messy, and straightness isn't something that's like virginity that like when you violate it once, it's gone forever. Like that's just not how people work. I don't know. The whole thing is weird.
Yeah. Well, I also think that like one of the things in that article you talked about people describing themselves as bi-curious may be new to the language and not sure how to define themselves. And all of these words, like there's hetero-curious, hetero-flexible, straight-curious, somewhat bi, maybe bi. Like people use all these words, and I don't think I don't think you're responsible for knowing the vast history and definition and cultural significance of all the words you use. People just kind of like hear words and say them back. Like, that's why I don't think you have to put the weight of the world on people that call themselves bi-curious of being like, well, do you know that word has an implication of blah, 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 blah. So
sure. Yeah. No, you're right.
The other thing I wanted to say about this study is, it said that our data shows that contrary to many beliefs and stereotypes about such men, many of them have engaged in considerable reflection about their sexualities and sexual lives, and their reflections have led them to conclude that their self-identification as straight is warranted. So I think the assumption is that if you are straight and looking for men online, that you're inexperienced and have not thought about this a lot. But apparently they said that these men have spent a considerable amount of time reflecting on their identities and have come to the conclusion that straight is the right one for them, which I thought that was really interesting and also violated my stereotypes of straight or bi-curious men or whatever you would call them. I would think they would not have reflected too much on this, and this would be a new thing, but apparently they spend a lot of time thinking about this.
Interesting. I mean, I think about sex more often than I care to admit, so I don't know if that counts as reflection, though.
Sure. Depends on what you're thinking about when you're thinking about sex.
Okay.
That's the gayta.
God bless people who study this kind of shit. Like,
I know, right?
Did we do it?
I think we talked about a lot of stereotypes and stuff.
We talked about the title of the episode.
That's true.
We were a bit more on topic than like we have been in the past sometimes.
On average, more on target than usual. You're welcome. You're welcome, listening audience. Yeah.
Well, speaking of reflection, we're gonna the Patreon segment. Kyle's gonna do an Ask Reddit.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's gonna be great.
You can't wait. You're so excited.
But let's take a break then. I guess.
Let's take a break.
Break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
Are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We're gonna do our gayest and straightest.
We're gonna do our gayest and straightest, but first, local gay bar review.
Wow.
It's back. I've been traveling, it's back.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. And this time I'm revisiting one, which I don't know if I've done that before. I'm going to talk to you about The George in Dublin, Ireland. And here's the thing, Kyle. We've made it clear that my system is a strong word. And like,
but there are certain things that get it more points that we know of.
Yeah. I just don't remember what I rated it the last time. But last time there's a drag show and an amateur dance off, and I was there with my friend Kelly. This time it was just a fun dance party. It was a school night, so there was no like drag or anything. But boyfriend was there also. And so I didn't have to dance at all. They danced their asses off. They danced their pants off, quite literally, because Kelly lost a pocket to the back of her jeans, and boyfriend's zipper in his dick area broke.
Wow. They literally danced their pants off.
They danced their pants off, literally. Ran into some coworkers, including some straight ones. I saw like so many different kinds of queer there. My favorite thing I think that's ever happened was this girl was dancing with boyfriend like right in front of the table, and she goes, "Do you want to come home with me?" And he said, pointing at me, "I'm gay." And she said, "I don't care." 4.5 dildos.
Wow. That's quite a good rating.
Yeah, it's very good.
That's like me when I talk to a straight guy where he's like, "I'm straight." I'm like, "Doesn't matter. Get your dick out."
Yeah. How often does that work?
Always. 100%.
Oh. I need to hang out with you more often with straight guys around, I guess.
I know, right?
Okay. Our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We're on social media at Gayish Podcast, or you can follow our communities like Discord or our Facebook group and find all those at gayishpodcast.com/contact.
Our hotline, you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, especially if it's your gayest and straightest, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rate supply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109.
Gayest and straightest?
I guess it's time for our gayest and straightest.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
My gayest is plucking my eyebrows.
Is that gay? Yes, it's gay. Who am I kidding?
Yes. Sometimes, and these days, because I'm getting older, I have to like both shave and pluck.
Yeah.
You know, like I have enough long ones that I can't just pluck the long ones because that would be like a third of my eyebrows. So I have to like shave them down, and then, you know, underneath and over, there's the extra stuff that I don't need. And that's what I pluck.
Yep. I mean, old man eyebrows are a thing, everybody. Like it just starts happening to you.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yep. And do you also get random hair on your ears?
Yes.
Okay. Because every now and then I just have to like pluck out the ear hair that I just don't want to be there.
Yeah, it's not fun.
It's not fun.
Getting old,
but yeah, I know, right? I'm quickly approaching daddy age, which I think is 40 plus. I'm only a couple years away.
Okay. I mean, I heard it's just a state of mind, but it also starts at 40.
Which is not my state of mind. My state of mind is not daddy. That's if so don't call me that. Anyway, My straightest is whenever I take Reynolds out, I wear a hoodie and shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be
what?
quick. Like
It's got, it just like takes like a few minutes. He's got to go out and pee, and I'm already wearing my like relaxing shorts. And so I just throw on some flip flops and a hoodie. And that always feels like a straight bro thing to do.
Yep. And when I had a dog, I would even do that when it was raining. So
yeah, it's always fun to wear like your rain jacket and shorts and flip flops. Cause it's like, well, my top half is protected.
Yep. For sure.
What about you?
What about me? The straightest thing about me this week was watching hurling. Have you ever seen this sport?
No.
We were in Ireland and a hurling game came on the TV at the bar that we were at. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And it was hurling because you have a little spoon and you hold the rock in the spoon, like doing an Easter egg thing, except it's a big ass spoon that you also whack the stone with, and like also potentially other players. And there's like a field goal thing, and you've got to either get it over the bar or under the bar, but definitely between the parallel bars. Like it's like soccer and lacrosse and rugby and a dare, all mixed into one.
No, I've never heard of this.
Yeah. And the dudes were hot. Okay. And then the gayest thing about me this week was just being at work and having one of the software engineers say, we're going to the George later, the bar that I just did the local gay bar review. You probably already know about the George. I brought my gay game to work, and that they had me pegged.
Yeah, obviously you know pegged, about all the gay shit.
They knew I was gay.
Yeah, they pegged you so hard.
Yeah, they pegged me hard.
Well, thank you to all of the bi-curious people out there.
Yeah, come out wherever you are, but also don't have to. Do it at your own pace, whatever.
Yeah, basically do whatever you want. Is kind of what we're saying.
And whoever you want.
And whomever you want.
With consent.
With consent. And thank you to our super Gatbridgers. Thank you to Locomotive, Kaylee Adams, Kit Oliver, Kobe Gordon, Squoggle, Pip, Andrew Bugby, William Bryant, John Colley, Yost Dossel, Jonathan Montanes, Wadu, Forrest Nail, Patrick Martin, Steve Douglas, Explosive Lasagna, Michael Covington, Just Jamie, Thomas B, Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Cacciatorians, and Jerome York. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your money. That is it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Cacciatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See ya.
Bye. Curious. Come on now.
We'll just drink more wine while I wait.